My next guest worked in the White House under President George W. Bush. Maybe has some insights into how they'll navigate all of this. Joining me now is Larry Lindsey, the CEO of the Lindsey Group, former director of the National Economic Council, and a former Federal Reserve governor. It's great to have you, Larry. I don't know if you want to comment about Elon Musk's position, but I'm curious how you're thinking about it.
Well, he's a very talented guy. I understand why the president would want him. I think he's going to run into an Icarus problem. He's flying way too close to the sun. If I were recommending to him, I would say I would not sign on as a special government employee. I don't see any advantage to him, and Eamon has just laid out the disadvantages to him. I am sure he's going to get caught up in some legal conflict. Whether it's a real conflict or not doesn't matter. This is a eye of the beholder kind of thing, and litigation's inevitable.
Could he serve as basically some kind of, platform, a cheerleader in some ways, kind of saying, here's what the administration is doing, and being in discussions with them, maybe in discussions with Doge, but having no formal role?
I think that would be much, much better. The guy's got a huge megaphone. Honestly, he deserves it, whether you agree with him or not. He's got a few rabbits in his hat. If he could pull out of his hat, one of them would be rescuing those poor astronauts who've been stranded up there by NASA and Boeing. And I know that's one of his missions. I mean, he'd be a national hero if he did it. I think that would make it a little bit harder to attack him, but best to not have any formal government ties. You can always give First Amendment rights out there in the real world. And, if you want to, president wants to give you a call, president can give you a call.
Right.
There's no law against that.
Take your advice.
That's the way I would do it if I were he.
Interesting. Let me pivot from that, Larry, and ask you about the events of this week with us coming close to 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico, or maybe not that close. Do we really need to be thinking about this as a possibility next month, or is this all just theoretical?
Well, it's not theoretical. Anything can happen. And the president is not an easy man to predict. A lot of this is him playing the art of the deal by instinct, seat of his pants. My view on those two is that he was looking for an easy win. And I think he and President Sheinbaum are reasonably close on where they're going to end up. Canada technically does not have a government. Trudeau can say this, that, and the other thing, but with Parliament prorogued, there's not a lot of substantive stuff he can do. Deals are easy in both cases. I would quote, because they're easy, I think it was a natural choice for the president, because if he can show wins, then the next guy down the road who he's going to confront is up against a guy with momentum. And that's very powerful in deal making. Yeah. So I would call that a momentum play by the president.
Well, and we're trying to figure out for corporate America, for investors, were they suckers who kind of sold GM on these concerns and, were kind of shifting money around on these possibilities? I guess we'll find out. The one thing that did happen was China, 10% tariffs. And you've got voices like Derek Scissors who think, that's not enough. And he's kind of lost his focus on China and addressing this kind of 30-year gap that we've had with them in the manufacturing and so forth. And what is the takeaway from this escalation of tariffs on China now?
Well, I think you just named the real target. I think one of the possible end games that the president may have in mind is for Canada, Mexico, and the United States to have a common front on tariffs with China. Right now, China sneaks a lot of goods, and not just fentanyl, into the United States via our two neighbors. And if we had a united front, say everyone put a 25% tariff on them, the profitability of doing that wouldn't work. So I do think that cooperation with Canada and Mexico against China is probably going to be the end game in all this.